Hello, my name is Jennifer Nichols and I teach Procreate. I'm going to show you how to make this gorgeous dragonfly illustration, and we're going to use a stamp brush just as our guide. And the fun part is really just having fun with color. Let's get started. So the brushes I'll be using in this video is a dragonfly stamp from this stamp set here, just 2 dragonflies in that set, and some brushes from my big Procreate Potpourri brush set. And then if you go all the way back, you can do this later at the very end. Go to the older freebies here. Keep going all the way down to these Stardust brushes. They're amazing. Make sure you grab them. Those are the brushes that we're going to use in this lesson, and they are all free for newsletter subscribers. So you sign up, you get your email, and the welcome email has the password and the link. The password changes once in a while, so make sure you watch the emails and you'll be able to access those at any time. You can use any colors with these, so I did not provide a palette, but you can follow along with me if you want. And I'm just going to show you quickly kind of how to lay it all out. The first thing we're going to do is get our background, and you can see it is all smudgy and yummy with all these textures and colors. So we're going to be adding colors with a big pastel brush that's it's called side stick pastel. It's kind of the look of using your pastel on its side, your little stick pastel. And we'll smudge those, and then we'll stamp on a new layer, and then we'll start kind of decorating our dragonfly, making changes to it, things like that. The first thing you need to do is think about colors, and if you're kind of not so sure about colors, then I want you to know that if you pick colors that are sort of, 3 in a row on the color wheel here, then they're going to smudge together really well. If you pick complementary colors opposite on the color wheel, they look good together, but when they smudge, they get muddy, so you have to be careful. And I'll show you both. So for canvas size, go ahead and think about something that you might want to print or whatever you might want to use this for. For this video, why don't you just follow along with like an 8x10. It can be portrait, it can be landscape, it can be whatever you want. Your dragonfly can be off to the side, getting cut off at the edges. These will all look unique in the end. So think about, but this one being kind of a practice. And then later when you make something that you might want to do something with, like print on a larger scale, then you'll want to make a larger canvas size and probably need about 15 layers max. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with a canvas. I'm going to press the plus sign here. Plus sign here, and I just do inches, and I'm going to do width 10, height 8, 300 dpi is high resolution. I always use this color profile right below display P3 RGB and tap create. All right, so we're going to do that very dramatic background. I like to drop a color. I'm going to add a couple layers here. I'm going to drop a dark color in. So I'm going to clear that because it's kind of messing with me here. Let's go with, I'm going to do, since it's dragonfly, maybe sort of flying over water. It doesn't have to be, but I'm going to use analogous colors down at this end. So I'm going to do a dark blue, super dark, and drag and drop. That could be even darker if you want. All right. In the potpourri set, if you go down to this crayons and pastels, here's the side stick pastel right here. And you can decide how big you want this. I go pretty big. The percentage is going to be different depending on your canvas size. So just kind of test it out here. Go to maybe a brighter blue. This is a super bright, well, my example is a super bright look. You of course can do whatever look you want. Yeah, I think that's a nice, wide, bulky shape, width, I should say, so I can easily get some nice coverage without spending too much time. And I am on the same layer. You could be on a new layer if you want. And I'm just I don't want to just add a dot here, a dot there. I'm just kind of adding somewhat stripy areas or bigger patches. And then think about what other colors I want in here. I'm gonna go over to purple and maybe a nice saturated purple here. These colors will mix so well together. This is kind of the speed version of this lesson. I've taught this lesson, gosh, a couple years ago in a event for Peggy Dean, and it's also in my membership. A longer version is in my membership. All right, now I think that's good for the kind of analogous base colors here. I'm going to tap and hold the smudge tool so I have that same brush on the smudge, check my size, and I am not smudging a lot. So I'm going to zoom way in, and I'm going with sort of a streaky look this way, but you can do whatever you want. And I am kind of just doing some quick little, I'm barely touching the pencil on the glass, quick little smudges. The reason I'm doing it like this is because I like the texture and I don't want to get rid of the texture, but I want these to blend into each other. And you can see we really covered up a lot of that dark blue, but it does still add to the overall look. So it's good that it's there. I'm going to go to a new layer because this is where, when I told you about the complementary colors being muddy, I am going to add a pop of a complementary color. So I'm just kind of down here, and I'm going to hop over to this side of the color wheel. And since I'm sticking with really highly saturated colors for this, I'm just going to go really bright with that orange. And I could cover up some areas that I'm not super happy with, like this purpley area is quite smudged. That's so pretty. I'm not super happy over there. I don't want to have just teeny tiny blobs here. And because we went to a new layer, when we smudge, it's not going to get super muddy. It'll still look, you need to watch where your real true complementary colors are combining here. You could still get a muddy look if you do a little too much smudging. But isn't that fun just to have that little pop of color, of a complementary color? Okay, spend some time on this. Pause your video if you want to really make this exactly how you want it. But on the other hand, if you keep going, just consider this your practice one, then you'll have a better idea of maybe on the next one, how you want those colors to look. You could also come back later and go to hue, saturation, brightness and change it. I might merge these two layers now. If you're happy, you can merge those. There's no reason for the orange to be separate now. But maybe I want to go hue, saturation, brightness and darken it a bit, make it a little bit more dramatic. I like that. All right. Oh, and you can also, of course, change the hue to a totally different thing here. And I'm going to hit cancel on that because I really like it just like this. All right, it's time to stamp. So let's go to a new layer. I'm going to add a few layers here. We haven't added our texture layers yet, but I think it's okay to wait on that. Sometimes, most of the time, I like to add that texture layer first because it does change the look of the colors. So that's just something you can decide later after we get through this whole video, if next time you want to add it first. Also, you can see I have this bright white background here. I could have changed that to the dark blue instead of having the solid fill of dark blue on this layer, but the smudge wouldn't have, the blue wouldn't have been involved in that smudge, so I chose to have it be part of an actual layer that gets worked with. I'm going to pick probably a white to stamp with and go to the Dragonfly stamps. You can pick either one. I'm going to pick the base, the first one, the kind of basic one. This one's a little bit more whimsical. I'm going to make it nice and big. This is just a sketchy stamp. to make a little bit of a change here. And to do that, I need to center it so I can turn symmetry on. So let's select it with the arrow, go to snapping, make sure snapping is on. We can turn magnetics off. And I'm going to snap it right to the center. It just needs to be the center this way, but this one's currently directly in the center. You'll see the gold line. And then I'm going to go into my wrench tool, canvas, drawing guide, edit drawing guide, symmetry, and it's going to default to the symmetry that I need. And I'm going to turn my line color here to white so I can really see it right there, and tap done. And now I see it says assisted right there. If it doesn't say assisted, you can tap it and turn it on right there. So now I'm going to go to the adjustments menu, liquify, push. I keep momentum, distortion off, pressure up, and I just want a small size here. What I'm doing is I'm thinking about pushing in the sides. It's going to happen on both sides, as you just need to affect one side here. I'm just making some adjustments to this sketch, and it's kind of an easier way for my brain to work, doing it before I start adding color. I'm not going to follow the sketch perfectly in the end anyways, but I kind of want this whole thing to be thinner here. And then probably up here, I'll be a little bit more careful not to affect the wing. I think the rest is okay. I just wanted this part thinner. This is a time where you could play with the wings, right? This sketch layer is not going to be turned on, so it's okay to just totally mess it up. It's not going to be turned on at the end of all of this. I can turn the drawing guide off. Drawing assist is still on, so I can tap it and tap that, so turn it off. All right, and we can also turn off snapping so that we can place our dragonfly exactly where we want it. Okay, now where do you want it? That's another decision you have to make. So how big do you want it? How small do you want it? I'm going to make it, I want it to really kind of dominate the whole screen here, but I'm okay if the wings get cut off a little bit. I feel like this is always the direction I end up doing it. I don't know why. All right, once I deselect, it's going to crop. So make sure you have it where you want it, and then you can tap on the brush and it crops. I'm going to alpha lock this layer just so I don't accidentally draw on it, and tap the N and turn it to, well, I don't want to turn it to multiply because it's white. Normally, if I had a dark sketch layer, I would turn it to multiply. And I'm going to turn it down, and now I can start working below it. So on the layer just above our colors, I'm going to just fill in this whole body area with a dark gray, black. You could do black. I wouldn't do super solid black. If we go back down to potpourri, you can pick any of the brushes. I like this soft pastel brush. There's another pastel up here in the pencils. Pastel pencil, that one is a nice one also. Here, I'll go ahead and do that one on a pretty big size. And oh, that's not quite dark enough. And like I said, you don't have to follow the sketch exactly, but just fill in. I'm going to fast forward this. You fill in your body, however. clippy masks if you're worried about covering up some of the work that you did on the green layer. This is a Magical Dragonfly. I'm just gonna leave it like this for now. And on a new clippy mask or the same one, I am going to come back down to this real royal blue right here, pegged out for saturation. And let's go back down to this soft pastel and blender brush. This gets pretty big. I did not select it. That's weird. It gets pretty big. And I just want to, oops, a little too big. I want to fill the eyes in with the dark blue. Not completely fill, just kind of a dustiness there. And then some lighter blue, more towards green, even smaller section. We're going to give that iridescent look. Maybe a little bit of that pink. And white to really give it a shine, give a nice solid blotch of white. So that was a really quick, really rough overview of doing the body. You can spend a lot more time on it, but in the end, it's going to be kind of a small thing here, and the wings are going to really take most of the attention. So I'm going to keep moving ahead. Just know that I would probably spend a lot more time on the body. Let me go back to the examples here. Here I spent hardly any time on the body. Just some little flips and stripes. Here I did something similar. I also did a little bit of highlighting on this side, lighter green. And I did some shadows of darker gray, black, I guess. So you can spend time on that. Ooh, it's already going to look totally different. All right, it's time to move on to the wings. So for the wings, I'm going to a brand new layer. It's not a clipping mask. And I'll just choose white, double tap up here. And I'm still on this soft pastel blender. I'm going to go kind of big. And I'm just really lightly adding some airy look here. I'm going to erase where I'm outside the lines. And the areas that I really want to focus on in this step and the next step where we're kind of doing some outlines, some more solid outlines, are just sort of making sure that I can see the tips of my wings and maybe these curves in here and maybe a couple of spots that are on top overlapping the body area. It doesn't all have to be with this wispy white. It doesn't all have to be with the outlining. It can be a kind of a combination. I'm going to tap and hold the eraser, so I'm on that same brush for the eraser. And I'm going to go kind of small. I need to bump up my opacity on my sketch so I can see it better. But I'm going to erase just kind of roughly where I really went outside the lines between the wings here and around these edges, maybe up in here, over up on the body area here. Maybe go a little smaller to get in here. You don't have to be super precise about this. And you can see that I can still see through all of this. If there's an area that is a little too solid for you, you can bump it back up and kind of erase really lightly over that area. Maybe this one. You could smudge. I don't actually do a lot of smudging. All right, I think that's good. I am gonna leave that on its own layer in case I want to edit later, and go to a new layer. And I'm gonna stay on that same brush. So we're on the soft pastel and blender. You could go back to any pencil-y brush, the pastel pencil that we were using, but I'm gonna go to a pretty small size and I'm gonna stay on white. And this is where I'm gonna fast forward after I explain what I'm doing. I am doing some of the outlines, but not all. And I'm also not making solid lines. So I'm gonna be alternating between white and black. And I just want to make sure, like I said, I want to kind of make sure these edges are a little bit defined. These edges over here are a little bit defined, but what I'm not doing is I'm not tracing every single outline on that sketch layer. That's just my preference. And I'm also kind of pressing and lightening my pressure, hardening and lightening. So I'm getting not solid lines. So I'm just kind of winging it on the wings. I can't really see the outline there, the sketch, the stamp layer, so I'm going to turn that off and decide which lines do I really want to have showing. You can always come back later and add more. So you can see I'm using a really light touch. This is a time where you can go off and not follow the stamp, so it's not going to look super symmetrical. Turn our fuzzy layer on and our sketch layer off and just see how you like it. I like it. We're going to go to a layer under that outliney layer that we just did, but above the fuzzy white layer. So I went down to the fuzzy white layer and I'm going to add a layer above that. So I'm in between those two layers now. And we're going to start adding, I'm just sticking with the same brush. I'm going to go a little bit bigger. If you really look closely at their wings, they have a lot of sort of mosaic features. I'm turning the sketch back up. I want to see all the lines, even the ones I didn't trace. The mosaic is kind of just all lacy, right? It's like reflecting all the colors of their surroundings. So that's sort of what we're going to do. We're going to choose from some of these colors out here. You don't have to stick with those colors, obviously. And not exactly the same colors necessarily, maybe brighter, lighter versions. And here I've chosen a blue that's similar to this bright blue down here. I don't want to put little mosaic-y blotches right above that blue because you won't be able to see it, but I do want to put it nearby. I'm going to decrease the opacity of my fuzzy layer just a little bit. I like that. All right, so that was tapping on the end and decreasing. So I could put some little blue marks like this. I'm kind of doing little dotted lines above this purpley pink area. But if I put them here, I won't be able to see them very well. So I'm picking similar colors to what the surrounding colors are. And I'm just randomly picking some areas to put little dots. Like I'm doing a little line, like doot, doot, doot. And then I want to disperse them. I am not going to fill in the wings with all of these little dots, little dashes. I'm just randomly going around thinking about where might this blue be showing up. This area, it has some blue near it, so it would probably have some blue reflecting in there, right? Just thinking about where would the blue show up. There's a lot of blue under this wing, so I don't want to put more blue right above it. Let's switch to this bright pink. I'm just going to grab it from down here. I don't know if it's exactly the same, it doesn't matter. And brighten it towards white a little bit, but also fully saturated. Oh, So pretty. So make sure you get some of that pop of color in there as well. I'm going to fast forward. Just going to have fun going through and randomly putting in my little dashes, little teeny tiny. They're almost dots. I don't want to call them dashes because they're not lines, but they're also not dots. So, but yours can be whatever you want them. That I could keep going and going and going on. Turn your sketch off and see how well defined your wings are. Do you want to add more of these more solid stripes, dark stripes, more of the fuzzy layer, I guess we can call it? What do you want to add? All right, that's something you can do on your own time. I think because we focused on these little curves right here and these outside curves right here, it's defined in that we can see that there's wings there. But you may want yours to be more or less sort of solid, I guess, and that is completely up to you. If we want to try to get a little bit of a shadow going underneath this guy, and he's also just all one color, this is something you can do with more clipping masks on your own time, is go through and put a little bit more detail on this body layer. But in the meantime, let's duplicate this body layer. So the black, dark gray, I'm going to swipe left, duplicate, and on the one underneath, we're going to use that as a shadow. So if you can move it to the side, you can see it. And we're going to alpha lock it. So you can tap alpha lock like this, or you can 2-finger swipe to undo and redo alpha lock. And I'm going to pick a gray, just straight across gray, and tap fill. And then play with the blend mode. I happen to know that I'm going to want multiply. So you're going to experiment with blend modes and look at what a good shadow layer might be for your preference. Like some of these, like color burn, shows up darker in different ways depending on the colors that it's above. Multiply is very gray, but I like to reduce the opacity, and I'm going to blur it too. So I won't reduce the opacity quite yet. I can't blur it until it's not alpha locked anymore. So I'm going to tap that and tap alpha lock so the little grid is gone, and go to the little magic wand here and go to Gaussian blur. And then you can see right there the percentage. You just tap your pencil and swipe up and it's blurring. You got to watch it down here. So I'm at about 8%. Totally up to you what you want. And then tap the little M. It's now an M because it's on multiply, whatever yours says, and play with the opacity. And now we can move it into position. So my eyes are kind of highlighted on the light is coming from here. So I'm going to have the shadow going off this way. And I'm going to tip it a little bit, and I'm going to line up this head and eye area right underneath. Bring it out a little bit, tip it maybe a little bit more. I think I might reduce the opacity. That just gives that a look of it kind of angled down like they fly. If you want it to look a little higher up off of the surface, whatever this is, water, ground, magical swamp, then you can move the shadow in a different way. I'm going to reduce the opacity just a little bit more. So that's just a fun little shadow. I am going to swipe right on all my dragonfly layers, not the sketch, I don't need that anymore. So just swipe right and group. Now you have your whole dragonfly there, and add a layer above it. And I'm gonna go to white. We're just gonna put some magical sparkles on here. So find your star brushes that I talked about at the very beginning. Here's mine. And the starburst dust, I think works on a pretty small size. It's pressure sensitive, so you can start small, maybe sparkles coming out of the tail and then getting bigger. This part is something that you can spend a lot of time on separately later. So just get something down and then you'll know what to do later. If you want to redo it, it's on its own layer and you can play around with that. All right, we didn't add any texture, canvas texture, so I'm going to do that really quick so that you know how. I actually don't think that it's needed. I think this looks really great just the way it is. Oh, as I'm looking at this white line right here, I'm seeing that this wing isn't very well defined right in this area, so I might go back and add some more white lines here. And that's the kind of stuff to look at. So for texture layers, if you go to your Procreate Potpourri set, I did put some in here at the very top, canvas textures. Let's just try pulpy paper. And again, go to that gray straight across like that. We're gonna go to a layer above everything, although maybe you don't want your sparkles under the texture layer. You can decide that later. So I'm gonna tap and add a layer, and we're just gonna fill in, play with your size here. And fill in the whole thing with gray in one stroke. And you can barely see it here, but it's there. And I'm gonna swipe left and duplicate so we have 2. For one, we can put it on color burn. And for the other one, tap the N and put it on multiply. And you can see here, hopefully, my brightness has gone down, that it's like pretty crazy texture there. So now we play with opacity. And if the opacity isn't going to bring it down enough to a texture level that you like, then redo it with a lighter gray. All right, so I know that the multiply layer is usually the biggest culprit in the dark look here. So I'm gonna tap the M on the multiply layer and just bring the opacity down. The multiply layer is mostly giving you texture on the lighter colors. I don't have a lot of lighter colors in this one, so I don't really need it. So I'm way down at 10%. The color burn, you can really see these blobs of the paper texture here, pulpy paper. If you don't like those so much, just reduce that texture as well. Yeah, I like it, but it was also great without it. So I can swipe right and group those and then test it. You might not be able to see that so well on camera, but you can do that in person and test it out, see if you like the texture or not. And of course, try different textures as well. And that's your dragonfly. I'm not on social media anymore, so you can't tag me except for on Substack, I guess. You can find me at Jennifer Nichols Art. I have a private community within my membership, and we share art all the time, like a Facebook group, and we would love to have you. The details are in the description below. I hope you enjoyed this lesson and can't wait to see you next time.